Welcome back to another episode of the Backdoor Cut. Owen is slagging Darragh McGurn for taking the glasses off. He doesn't know who's talking right now, I'm sure, although you can probably tell from the accent that it's not Owen McCabe. Lads, how are you doing? A tough weekend for both. I don't know who wants to go first here, but obviously the fixtures at the weekend weren't quite favourable. You know, we will give Owen a chance to right his wrong of suggesting that he may be in that panel for the weekend. Owen, how did it feel to be left out of the panel? And in all seriousness, how close are you to getting back, do you reckon? You're back training this week?
Yeah, I was back training last week. I'm not gonna lie, was a bit gutted. Whether that's my own problem for thinking that I'm maybe further ahead or further up the pecking order than where I really am. Considering I haven't really played or trained in the last probably properly since last season. But I thought maybe 25 minutes of an in-house game and 2 training sessions might have been enough to get me on the 26. No, it was a bit sickening, but at the same time, probably the right call. It gives me another bit of time to get a few more sessions under my belt, get a little bit of work done, get more exposures to in training and in game scenarios, and yeah, just I suppose it probably is the right call. And if you're a manager and you saw a player training maybe twice in 4 or 5 months, you'd be going, fuck, I don't know if he's ready. Do you know what I mean? So, bad day at the office all around, and even result wise, not a good result. Do you think the last 5-10 minutes they did run away with it? And I think they scored maybe 1-4, 1-5 in the last 5-10 minutes, which put the scoreboard way up. But they were the better team throughout the whole game. No complaints there. Even we went a point ahead or got back level and just didn't. It didn't even feel like it was level. It didn't feel like it was a point ahead from what's on. It felt like they were always in control a wee bit. So, I think our boys all know the same. Disappointing day out. Everyone's disappointed, but I suppose you can't be licking your wins for too long. You just have to, as cliche it is, bounce back because Anchors, well, obviously down Westmeath, they're sitting top, and Anchors and local other teams are being around sort of 4 points now. So, it'll be tight as it always is. You're probably a kick of the ball away from. You can be win 1 or 2 games. You could be getting promoted. You could lose 1 or 2 games and end up getting relegated. So it's always tight.
I backed their confidence as well, but it did seem like, well, in my head, I was thinking, geez, Owen must be absolutely flying to be so confident that he's going to be back in the panel. He's only trained twice. Another man that probably is going to be in a similar position in a couple of months is Darragh McGurn. Darragh, do you think you'll be straight into the team as quickly as Owen? And obviously a tough result at the weekend versus Donegal. What was it like playing against them? I hear that they're flying fit at the moment, and they obviously put up a serious score against you boys from Fermanagh.
Yeah, I suppose similar enough story in that it was a disappointing day out. At half time, it was obviously only a point in it. Donegal were probably wasteful enough in that first half, but we were well in the game, and it was more so just the most disappointing thing was probably our response to the first goal. And it's something that's probably, we've done in the past as well. It's just not reacting well when a so-called higher level team gets on top. It's what is your response? And that across the board needs to be just of, sticking to what you're doing, sticking to the game plan and just pushing on. And that was probably something we didn't do, and we let them, I suppose, run over the top of us in that second half, and that was that was what happened. When you look at the scoreboard, 1 point at half time, it ends up 14-point game, which is just crazy to be fair. But yeah, the beauty about the league is that you've only dropped 2 points, and the next game is absolutely massive. And I suppose the Cork game was always going to be absolutely huge for us because we're at home, and I suppose our main goal is staying up in Division 2, and if we can win next week, that gives us a massive chance of doing that. So yeah, it's just about resetting us. We're taking the learnings, which there's going to be loads. Fast turnaround, obviously, so we're going to have to be implementing them pretty quickly. But as I mentioned before, that's it's not the worst position to be in. That you've simply dropped 2 points. It's not like a championship game where you're out. So it's still huge importance in this week's game. And yeah, I suppose in terms of my own side of things, there's a lot of work to be done, I suppose, to work myself back into the team. It's not going to be a case of just training for 1 or 2 weeks and I'm back in, because there's lads in that squad who've been training all year and putting in a massive shift, and have probably earned the right to be in the team and have been going well. So yeah, that's ahead of me. That's all ahead of me, and I'll not be making any claims on a podcast that I'm going to be in the squad anyway.
I was just looking at the 26, like I wasn't even expecting to get in the 26.
It didn't happen, unfortunately. So I suppose a lot of club athletes or fans will be hearing about goals going against you and bigger teams, and having that perception in your mind and how you react to them. And I'd be thinking, probably previous to you saying that inter-county players aren't affected by goals going in against them. So is it or does it make a huge difference when a so-called bigger team or a team that's won championships in the past puts a goal in against you, even if it's against a run of play? Does it have a tangible effect on how you work on the field in the minutes thereafter, Darragh?
It's just a massive sucker punch in terms of, like, you have to be really disciplined, and yeah, with your body language and your response. So it's something you kind of need to have thought about before a game. Is something I would have done in the past. It's like nearly visualizing what your response is going to be when a goal does go in. Like, that's always the biggest thing, is like, what is your reaction? Is your reaction to just put the head down and jog back out into position and, you know, just let the keeper kick it long and shy away? Or is your reaction going to be, I'm going to be the one to win this ball, or I'm going to be in the position that I'm supposed to be in for the break? And sometimes that can happen where, you know, a team, even if it's 2, 3, 4 players, you shy away and go away from, I suppose, the initial plan in terms of kickouts or whatever it is. I suppose that next kickout's huge, like, because the other team has got momentum and they're massively hungry to get that ball back and just drive it down your throats. So I suppose a bit of in-game cuteness is something that probably needs to happen as well in terms of killing that momentum, like, in whatever method you think is right. I know the Dubs would have been very cute with this. Like, if a goal had went in against them, nearly they would have done something to kill that momentum. Someone might have went down. They might have held the ball for 2, 3, 4 minutes. You know, just small things like that there in games, to try and turn the tide and just get the next score is huge. So yeah, it's probably that 5-minute period after a goal goes in is going to determine massively how the rest of the game goes.
Eoghan, what's your response to a goal going in as a corner back? Because obviously Darragh's just touched on there the next kick out being extremely important. Do you try and take responsibility and make yourself an option straight away then for the keeper? And how useful is it to have a keeper with a cool head then after a goal goes in, that he's able to find even just a simple first pass?
Yeah, 100%. That's like what Darragh said there about the reactions, massive. Like, it'd be something that I would think about. That's like, right, you need to almost, when you are conscious of it and when you are aware of it, then you can kind of influence it a bit more. Like, sometimes some, you know, players aren't aware of it and they don't even think about it. Like, just sometimes the natural reaction is to go, here we go. But so yeah, you're like, even just talking, communicating, trying to get the energy back up. Just even a simple word of just reaction, like, and people switched on again is my kind of approach of it. And then yeah, it's getting out of the position. It's body language. It's literally everything Darragh just said there. In terms of being an option or looking for an option, like, you sort of depends on what the, like, sort of state of the game it is, what the scenario is, what the opposition maybe press is like, and you sort of call it there. But you need to have that sort of energy. You need to have that body language of, you know, looking the ball, even if you know that maybe there's a planned kick out or something, or someone else is due to be getting the balls. Like, everyone, you need to be sort of seen as an option. I think that's a big thing where when it does come to that sort of time, like, do you actually want that ball? Or do you sort of go into your shell and kind of retreat? But, you know, if you want to be a top player and you want to be you want to push on, and, you know, if you want to push into Division 2, like, you need to be sort of stepping up in those sort of moments, and you have to sort of relish the opportunity and like bring on the pressure, so to speak. Like, so yeah, you are trying to be alive and trying to be an option there.
I remember sending a study, the results of a study, to the head coach I was working with a club I was working with previously, about kickouts, and it was pretty concrete that the earlier you could get the ball out from the kick out, the more scoring opportunities that were created. So if you got it out in the first 5 seconds, it was like 60 something percent. And if you got it out in 5 to 10, it dropped down to like 40 to 50. And then it progressively dropped as you went down towards 25 seconds. Is that a conscious thing for you guys on the field that, and probably more appropriate for Eoghan to speak on this, given that he's right next to the keeper, are you trying to get the ball out as quickly as possible, or is it up to the keeper kind of, if he wants to take his own time and then pick a pass, he can do that himself?
Yeah, I think in general the big thing is like get the ball out quick, and you see most keepers will be rushing to get a ball out quick. Probably for that exact reason that you just said in terms of the study, you do see when as soon as the ball's alive, you know, forwards like Darragh can be lazy bastards and don't want to switch on and track people. So hopefully you're trying to get a quick one away. Just watching clips last year, the R game against them, and our full back was up the other end of the pitch and set up a goal lick, and he was nowhere to be seen. So I bet it came from a kick as well. But listen, you know, you're trying to get the ball out quick, you know, when there's a bit of chaos, and when maybe teams are disjointed and they don't have that time to sort of set up a press or set up whatever positions that they want to be in, there can be that moment where you do kind of have to play kind of off the cuff and go for it. But then, yeah, I think the quicker you get it out, probably the more options you're going to have. If the quick one isn't done, then you can go to maybe a certain sort of kick out that's planned or a certain structure. But yeah, I do think there has to be that. Yes, you can have the structures and that's all well and good, but I do think you have to keep on players that are clued into the time of the game, the stage of the game, what's going on around them, rather than just being almost like robots and going, right, we have to do this is what we were told to do. You have to play the scenarios and play the sort of I suppose situation you find yourself in as well.
The pictures in front of your face is kind of the most important there, obviously, in your responding to your environment. Darragh, how useful is it to have a keeper that can do one of those one-step kicks? Have you had experience working with somebody like that, or playing with somebody that has that ability, one step and then like smashes it out towards the 65? Or conversely, how difficult is it to play against that if the opposition keeper has that in his locker?
It's unbelievably hard to play against it, from my experience anyway. As a forward, when you're trying to shut down a kick out and, you know, like it looks like he's going short, it's all manic, and then he just takes one step and he booms it. It's a massive resource. We've seen it with Rory Baggin, we've seen it with Niall Morgan over the years. Like the length of their kickouts off one step is just phenomenal, and Sean Patton as well, even for Donegal. So you kind of have to be really careful in terms of your squeeze, especially if that keeper has the breeze and you start over squeezing and you're 4 in the full forward line, 4 in the half, 5 in the middle, and the opposition just are kind of, they know the play is coming and they just bring you all in, and then it's a boomer over the top and they're gone. So a lot of teams probably were caught out with that. And when those keepers were probably first starting to do that, but a lot of teams have got cuter, and, you know, obviously the best option there is to nearly just give them the kick out instead of that happening. But again, I always think of it in a way of like who has the breeze. So if that keeper is against the breeze, I think you have to be brave and you have to go with the huge squeeze. And you see all the top teams doing it, because even if he does try and boom it on the one step, you know, you have time to get there because the ball is going to hang. So it does depend hugely on, I suppose, on the weather that day probably. But again, yeah, it just makes it a lot more difficult when you're trying to defend it. But when you're playing with it, it's unbelievable. Like especially when you're out around the middle, and you know that even when he's, I suppose, trying to let on, he's going for a short, within one step he could boom it straight to you 50-60 yards down the pitch. So it's a massive weapon to have, and I suppose the teams that have been able to utilise that most effectively over the last number of years have probably had the most success in their games and their results, I suppose.
Yeah, even if we just look at Dublin last year when Cluxton came back, it's a serious asset to them. But speaking of Dublin and kickouts, I remember speaking with Cian Murphy, who's playing centre back for Dublin at the moment, and he was telling me that they were making a conscious effort last year, and potentially for the years previous too, that when they scored a goal, that was when they pressed the hardest, because most teams, after they score a goal, you kind of relax because you're like, oh, we've got a goal. Whereas Dublin intentionally were talking about and speaking about, okay, after we've got a goal, let's press hard on the opposition and try to get the ball back and get the next score, because then we're really stepping on their necks, I guess. How easy is it to do that, or how difficult is it to do that after you've scored a goal? Because the first instinct of anybody after they've got a goal is probably to celebrate and kind of relax a little bit and say, okay, yes, we can sit back a little bit now because we've either crawled back into contention or we've got a bit of a lead. So how do you generally respond in the full backline, Eoghan, when a goal goes in?
As in we score a goal? You have to just let out a big yeah, like that's the first thing.
Yo.
But that's the first thing, and then same sort of thing. Like again, it's whoever's in the forward line. Then it has to be switched on. It has to be communicated. Usually, if there's someone that's made a run forward, I think maybe us defenders are a bit more switched on to it. Like we can sort of tell them like. No, I want to say again, but no, usually you have boys going forward. You have your halfbacks, your midfielders going forward, and generally you'll find there's bound to be a leader in the team. Someone, yes, whoever maybe scores the goal, or a couple of players can be given it the big one after a big score, like. But they're generally you have players in your team that can re-center and refocus people that can and get focused the task at hand. I think again, it's your setup, it's your preparation. It's knowing what you are working on and knowing what has to be done beforehand rather than having to be reminded. And like if you're well enough drilled and you have that drilled in, then you're going to get most people, well, everyone should be on the same wavelength anyway. Like, and it should just kind of happen, and it should be the sort of communication and the constant talk. But sometimes you do need one or two people just to keep the head screwed on a wee bit.
Darragh, how able are you to keep the head screwed on when you're in the forward line after scoring a goal yourself?
I usually go clean mad after a goal, like. The energy that a goal gives a team is absolutely huge, and I think it only makes sense to capitalise on that and push up in the next kick out and really squeeze it, because the body language of the opposite team is nearly always poor enough, and it's a massive opportunity to just, as you say with the Dubs, just I suppose ram it down the throat. And it's something I enjoy in terms of when I am involved in a team where that setup is, I suppose, in place, where if you do get a goal or you do get a big score, that you're squeezing the next kick out. It's a massive energy sapper when you do get a big goal or you do get a big score and you're told to just drop, and you're jogging back, and then you're running after boys for the next 5 minutes. Whereas if you're all up and you're all in place and you're putting a huge squeeze and the next kick out goes long and it's just smash back down the throats, you haven't had to do too much work and you probably have the ball back and your momentum's still there. So I think anyway it just makes a massive amount of sense to push that and to have that in place and to squeeze that next kick out and keep hold of that energy. Because even if you do lose that long, like, what's the worst could happen? You still have time to sprint back into position because you do have so much energy, and it's, the consequences of squeezing, it's going to be minor. Like,
you're not going to like the next question, but you were present in Letterkenny at the weekend when that ball went in from in around the 45 into the back of the net. What was the energy like then in response?
Unbelievably low. Yeah, I can actually just remember the feeling. Like, it's brutal. Like, because you just, especially the way it happened, where our goalkeeper was out of the net. Like, but that's the way a lot of teams are playing now, and that's of no fault of the goalkeeper, in my opinion. Anyway, it was us taking the ball into contact around the middle, losing it, and then probably not responding well enough. So yeah, the energy was sapped after that, and as I said, the response probably wasn't good enough in terms of how we responded with the next 5, 10, 15 minutes.
And is that the winning or losing of the game, do you reckon? Like, that next 5, 10 minutes and how you respond to it, is that what's going to keep you in it, really?
Yeah, well, we had a few chances after that. We kicked a few wides from places that we probably should have had scores, and that was probably the difference. Like, if we had tagged on the next 2, 3 scores, it still would have only been a 2 or 3 point game. We probably still would have had a right bit of energy, but we actually ended up kicking 1, 2, I think it might have been 2 or 3 wides. And then they got the second goal, and then the second goal was really the biggest killer. And that was when they really started to run over the top of us. So yeah, when you're in a game like that and you're playing a team like Donegal and you do go 6, 8 points down, it's massively difficult to try and stem that tide and try and, I suppose, keep the scoreboard relatively respectable. But yeah, it's that 5-10 minute period where the damage really happens, like if you don't respond well.
You had the benefit, I guess, if it is a positive, of being in Donegal for that, whereas Eoghan, you lads were up in Corrigan Park against your neighbours, and unfortunately that result went against you as well. What was the energy like in the dressing room after that?
Yeah, it wasn't great now. I think, yeah, it just wasn't great overall. Boys just knew they didn't perform, and that was probably the most frustrating part. Like the level that we can hit, we didn't hit. And they just, I think a lot of the boys will say that they didn't have their best performance there. Which is probably the most disappointing thing. It's like when you come away from a game and you've done literally everything you can, and maybe you come up a bit short, you can almost take away a bit more. It almost makes it a wee bit easier. Not that it's never easy to get beat, or you always want to be winning, like, but you can almost take a wee bit of sort of, listen, we emptied the tank, we gave everything we had, we literally couldn't have played any better. We just came up against a better outfit. But when you know that maybe you didn't perform the level that you could have, like, there is a bit of a worse feeling in the dressing room, like, and you could definitely sense that from the lads, like, and I think a lot of them know it themselves. So yeah, it's never a great place to be, like.
But Darragh's talking there about how Fermanagh are still obviously in pole position to stay up, and you've only lost 2 points. Division 3 is probably even more wide open at the moment, in that, like, there's 3 level on 4, and you're going to Sligo next week with an option an opportunity to get that 2 points back. Does it still give you kind of some solace that you have won those first couple of fixtures and you are still well in it and well in the reckoning to catch down in Westmeath up there at the top of the table?
100%, yeah. Like, if you're the goal at the start of the year is to get promoted, and to get promoted you're going to have to win, like, plenty of your games, ideally all of your games, but it doesn't always happen that way. If you look at, from how many did you lose? 1 or 2 last year, Darragh? I know Cavan lost 2. You lost 1, I think.
We lost our second game, actually, yeah. So similar enough circumstances, like. Yeah,
and you beat. It was only in the league final then. Cavan beat us, but Cavan lost 2.
Finished top of the league.
Yeah, teams are still getting promoted after losing 1 or 2 games, like, but it's about how you bounce back. You can't if you let the sort of defend the whole week, and that's the energy that you're bringing into the week, then it doesn't bode too well. But it is all about how you respond, take the lessons from it, and then carry that into the new week as well. But that's probably the good thing about that sort of period in the league. You've got sort of 3 games back to back where you're literally rolling game into game into game. Like, there's literally no time to be feeling sorry for yourself there. So it's just about sort of refocusing on what the overall goal is and literally just getting back to work again.
And in other sports, I suppose you'd talk about potentially not losing any of your games at home, or maybe more positive, say winning all of your games at home. Is that something that you speak about regularly in the National Football League as well, or is it something that you don't really care about that much? It's just about trying to win as many games as you possibly can, Darragh?
Yeah, it's not really spoken about massively, but everyone just knows it, that your home games are massively important. It's a weird one, like, because from the outside everyone will always talk about, oh geez, you want to be winning them home games. When you're in the middle of it, you're just building to that game, and the whole focus for that game is the same each week. It's just dealing with your opposition, learning as much as you possibly can about them, figuring out what game plan is going to be best suited to actually try and beat them. No chat is ever about, oh, we're going up to Letterkenny here, where it's not an easy place to go, or we're going here, or we're at home this week, geez, it's going to be a handy one. Like, that is never going to be in the discussion. It's purely about just preparation for the game that's upcoming. So yeah, subconsciously I suppose it might be in the back of your head that, we're in Brewster or we're wherever, and it might be a bit, even this weekend, like we're playing in Adderley this weekend, which is a small club ground that we played all our home games in last year, and we won all our home games. So there was quite a bit of chat that I suppose it was a bit of a fortress. And we're back there again this week, and Cork are obviously having to come the whole way from Cork up to Fermanagh to play in a club ground. So I suppose the chat from outside is probably going to be biased towards that. And that's what a lot of people will probably be saying. But in terms of in the camp, it's definitely not something that's you're going to be talking about as an advantage or anything.
And then Eoghan, is there a tangible different feeling having lost the game at home versus losing the game away? I know you've only experienced the loss at home at the weekend, but does it hit you a little bit harder?
There probably is a wee bit of it, just in that you're at home. There's probably more people there from the community, people that come out to support the county, like, and you almost feel like you do let them down a wee bit. So there probably is an element of that. But as Darragh says, you go out to win all your games, and it's not nice to lose any game. But yeah, I would say at home, knowing that there's people that and you see people in the crowd and you see the faces there, and you do obviously want to put a performance on for the people that do come out and support you, like, and you do feel like you've let them down a wee bit. I think a bit more so at home anyway, when they're there and they've spent their couple of quid to get into the game, like, and they've took 10 minutes of their day to come and see you, like. So yeah, I definitely think there is a wee bit more of a disappointing factor there.
People will be tuning in this week and thinking, Jesus, this is an awful depressing podcast. But there was a lot of positives for other counties and other players at the weekend. Was there any standout teams or players from your perspective that you had a look at and were like, they're going quite well, aside from the obvious, obviously? Darragh.
Yeah, I'm just going to state the obvious here, but I think the two Cliffords, like, Paddy was just absolutely unbelievable, and to be honest, he's probably my man of the match. Even though David was absolutely ridiculous and kicked that wonder score at the end, but those two I thought were flying. I thought Killian Burke for Kerry as well was phenomenal and added something serious to their forward line, power and pace, and you'd swear he's been playing for 5-10 years. But yeah, those three I thought were brilliant for Kerry. I thought Ryan O'Donoghue for Mayo as well was excellent. But he's nearly always just unbelievably consistent. He's just so tigerish, like, and has unbelievable feet, and has become a really prolific, I suppose, free taker. And I suppose we spoke about Shane McGuigan not getting the credit that he deserves. He kicked 11 points at the weekend, which is pretty ridiculous, and didn't hear a massive amount about it again. So yeah, I suppose that might have confirmed what we were speaking about.
Eoghan, anything different from you? Obviously, Darragh's taken the easy options there.
He literally took the words out of my mouth for the two Cliffords. Like, I think Darragh Moynihan as well for Kerry was very good. Him and Paddy, I almost like mistook them for each other at some stages, like, just the way they sort of carry the ball, the play ball in, two sort of playmakers. But Paddy stepping up, like, and kicking, was it 4 points from play, like. I think that was class. Clifford score, obviously, or David score at the end was obviously unbelievable. But yeah, just really, I like the way they went about the business there. Outside of that, I thought Mayo were going to pip it again. I thought they were going to do a smash and grab job like they did with Dublin last week. But I think Kerry maybe got a wee bit sloppy in the second half. But I was chatting to my dad about it, like, and he was saying about the 2 week break. It'd be interesting to see what team sort of approaches over that 2 week break. Like, did we get the balls run off them, or did they sort of maybe undercook it a wee bit and sort of not get enough work in? So it'd be interesting to see, like, what sort of other team setups are there. I know there was a lot of Sigerson players playing. Like, there was Gala get sent off for Mayo. He was playing for this, and the Sigerson. Obviously the Canavans. I'm sure there would have been plenty of other players. Which fella came on for down. Obviously McGill, the Sigerson captain. Like, so I'd say there's a good bit of fatigue there as well. So it'll be interesting to see how those boys handle it. I imagine after a Sigerson, you'd be on the beer for a couple of days. Like, so no. One was standout, yeah. Clifford's, like, I'm gonna play it safe for that, but that obviously was the standout of the weekend. Like, Conor O'Callaghan actually as well. Sorry, he played very, very well. I think they almost, like, towards the second half, it was just it was almost like a bit exhibitionist. They were sort of going for the goals. There was almost sort of Harlem Globetrotter style, like, and no, it was class to watch, like.
I actually messaged one of the lads that was playing Sigerson without knowing he was playing Sigerson, and I was just chatting about how's the season going so far, and he said, lad, I just won Sigerson about an hour ago. And I was like, it's going pretty well. So but do you reckon, actually, because before we move on from the Kerry and Mayo game, do you reckon Fergal Boland's listening to the podcast or something? Because we named him a few weeks ago, and holy God, he's been a man on fire since. Obviously scoring a crucial score before Ryan O'Donoghue put it over the bar to level it in that fixture. But that Mayo forward line, although they're down in Killarney, obviously, like, they're absolutely humming at this stage of the year, like, and Killarney's going to be a difficult place to go for anyone. Do they have a chance of winning the league again this year, do you reckon, Darragh?
I think they're definitely in with a shot. I think in terms of Division 1, the front runners are obviously, from what I can see, is Derry and Kerry. I can't see, if I'm being honest, I don't think anyone's going to beat them two if it gets to it. I think Mayo, I don't know how well Mayo are going, to be honest. Like, when I was watching that game at the weekend, I just couldn't believe how Kerry weren't further ahead the whole game. But it's just, I suppose it's just typical Mayo to stick in a game and grind things out. But I do think they've problems there, like, in terms of pushing on, and like from previous years, Mayo have always been flying in the league. They've just got that strong of a squad that even when they're missing one, like 2, 3, 4 players, like they've replacements to come in here at a very similar level. So do they have much more to add to their squad at the minute? I don't know. Like, I don't know who's, maybe 1 or 2 players to come in really, but not a massive amount. Kerry seemed to be nearly full strength as well when I was looking around their team, but they obviously have only had the Clifford back, and that's going to go to another level as well in terms of just the whole system. And I think, yeah, well, Clifford kind of spoke about it after. He says that they do put a big enough focus on the league. So I'd imagine it'll be a Derry Kerry final in Division 1. It'll be a good game to watch, actually, that.
Two contrasting styles as well, and I did want to touch on Derry. Obviously, we spoke about their runners off the shoulder and so many options. It's such a high intensity game that they're playing. Do you think it's important when you're playing that style of game to rotate players a little bit so that players are still fresh come end of the league and into championship, or do you just put your best team on the field every week going?
I was actually chatting about this the other day. Like, Darragh obviously flying at the minute, and he was sort of asked the question of, like, I wonder how long they can sort of sustain that. Like, part of you just thinks, right, at some point, not that the wheels are going to come off, but like at some point there's going to be a dip and going to be a lull. But the way they've been going even last year, they've been able to carry a serious amount of momentum forward. And I do think they are using a lot more players than what they used last year. But I do think there is that importance of boys. If you keep everyone fit, then brilliant, happy days. But I do think you do need that depth where lads can come in off the bench and do a job. Like you see it with the top teams, like that's they're like for the last 10-15 years you've been chatting about the bench coming in and finishing off games, like, and I think that's key. You know, you need players there who firstly in training are competing for spaces, and it drives the whole standard up. But then when you know that, right, someone's done the job and the player that you're bringing on is just as good as them, it's a class boost to see someone fucking quality coming in off the bench, like. So yeah, I do think the depth is key, giving players that exposure. But I do think it's up to the players as well to be at that standard and be fit to go and implement the game plan, like, and be ready to go, like. So yeah, ideally if you have 25 to 30 players who are all at that standard, it would be unbelievable.
I think something
There
we have
is
to
a
realise
team.
too is
Go ahead, Dar.
is Derry, or it's Derry's first year in Division 1. Like, they haven't had a massive amount of exposure to playing top teams over the last, well, they have, like, within Ulster and within the All-Ireland, but it's still not a massive amount of games. So they're probably thinking, we want as many games as we can possibly get with our first team to, again, just gain exposure to play more games against the top teams, to learn as much as they possibly can in this league, and then they'll hopefully have learned nearly everything come the championship, and then the hunger within Derry at the minute is absolutely huge. You can see that in every single player throughout every game. So as Owen said, it's probably going to be a mini lull, but I don't see it impacting their ability to win All Ireland or anything this year, to be honest, due to just the huge hunger levels and the quality they have. And they have brought players in as well. That's the thing. Like, it's not a case of just they're playing with the same team they have last year. Like, they've two or three new lads in who are really stepping up and putting, I suppose, their hand up for starting positions, which is creating a bit of competition within the first 15, which Derry haven't had in the last two years. Like, they nearly have played the same team and the same boys coming off the bench all the time. So squad depth is better, and they've introduced new lads who are getting exposure at the highest level. For 7-8 games, they'll probably get to a final. So that's probably the way they're looking at it, to be honest.
But the reason that I suppose you would rotate is to give everybody game time, which might not be an issue, I suppose, if lads are pushing on and challenging for those starting positions. But does it affect the team and the system if a couple of players do get injured and you've been playing the same starting 15 throughout the league, do you think, Owen?
Yeah, I think to an extent it probably would. Like, training's one thing, but then actually playing on game day is another thing in itself. Like, and with the occasion, it does come a wee bit more, I suppose, pressure. And I suppose a bit of hype about it. And if you're not used to, if you haven't been in that scenario and you haven't been exposed to that sort of environment too often, like, it can seem like a big deal. Whereas, if someone's played 20, 30, 40 games in their career, it's another day out. Like, they kind of look forward to it and they relish it, compared to maybe someone who's a bit more inexperienced. No doubt they have the ability there, otherwise they wouldn't be in the squad. But sometimes it just does take a bit of exposure to nicely sort of build yourself into it. Like, so I do think getting that exposure is key, using players where you can. But then again, it's like teams want to get results, and if something's working and teams are winning, you can sometimes be reluctant to change things and experiment, which you totally get as well when we're chatting about promotion or chatting about avoiding relegation. Like, getting points on the board early is the most important thing. But then that's where the manager comes in. They decide, right, for the longevity, where can we get players in so that we can continue this sort of trend going forward, rather than relying on sort of 15 to 18 players, say, where you can have sort of 23, 24, 25 that can come in and do a job. Like,
someone that might not be that worried about longevity, maybe Davy Burke and Roscommon with his 65 sessions so far this year. Surely those sessions have to be a mixture of pitch and gym, though, that he's counting. It can't be 65 days of the year they're doing stuff. And then, what are your own perspectives on it? Like, is it valuable to do that level of training? Obviously, we don't know what they're doing inside of training, but is there a risk factor that comes along with that, Darragh?
I think, well, to touch on that, I'm 99% sure he's including gym sessions as well. He's probably including recovery sessions. He's probably including fucking swimming sessions down somewhere. Like, he's probably including everything there. Like, I don't know I don't know how you get that in, but yeah, you have to be careful at load management, and I suppose it depends. Like, context is absolutely key when you're talking about how many sessions someone's doing. Like, if you're talking about just basic skill sessions, and that's fair enough, and he's probably got a point in terms of just developing that side of the game. But if you're talking about 4 or 5 intense sessions a week, then it's just not feasible. And as a squad, it's going to just go the opposite direction for you.
If you take that as, say, you take that as 4 or 5 sessions a week, like, it's only 12 to 16 weeks, like, really. So, that's probably, we'll say 8th of November. I think that's when teams are officially allowed to be back training. So we'll go from there. But it brings you up then and around there. Like, so, listen, most counties are probably starting there. Like, if you're getting 65 sessions done in 12 to 16 weeks, I'd say most county teams are doing that. Whether they're all collective or not, I'd say it's a pretty mad commitment if they are all collective. I know, like, yes, with gym sessions and stuff, some of them are collective, but you can have a bit of leeway to do sort of remote and get it done. But I suppose I think a lot of players a lot of teams are in the same boat. I don't think all teams have all players at any one stage. Like, we're just chatting about Sigerson there minutes ago. There's got to be boys away playing Sigerson. There's going to be boys playing club if the clubs are doing well, and obviously, it's yes, ideally you would have everyone there. Being selfish in that, like you want your team to do the best possible can, have all the players available to you, but yeah, it's not always perfect, like, is it?
Is there anything to be said for reducing the amount of sessions slightly from 5 maybe to 4, or even doubling up and doing gym and pitch on the same night and doing 3 and having everybody present rather than going with more sessions your 4 or 5 nights a week and having lads missing here or there, because maybe it's a little bit contagious to the group then, and lads are thinking, oh well, he missed tonight, I'm going to miss tomorrow, I have a christening to go to or whatever. And like, if you have a christening to go to the christening, I suppose. But like, maybe if other people are making excuses, other players are more likely to make excuses. What do you think, Darragh?
Yeah, well, I suppose nearly every team is doing 4 collective sessions a week. But as Eoghan says, there's going to be a bit of leeway for players who are living an hour and a half away from the gym. Like, you're just not going to make them travel down. Maybe some counties are doing that, I don't know. But like, and as well, to touch on that, like, most teams are doing the pitch and the gym days as well, doubling up. Not every time, but sometimes I suppose, one, to have everyone together doing it, but to free up another day for recovery. And that's kind of the way things are going at the moment. It's something even me and Eoghan would utilise with their own players in terms of the high-low model, the Charlie Francis model, like, and it just makes a lot of sense. So that's probably the main way now of reducing the amount of times that a team's going to be having to, I suppose, meet collectively. And to be honest, like, when it's done that way, it's a lot more enjoyable for a player when you're not having to go somewhere 5 days a week. Because that can be quite a burden, and it can be mentally quite fatiguing, I suppose, to just always have to be somewhere for a certain time. I can't really speak massively this year, as because I have, like, in terms of the gym sessions, I've obviously been working with Alan in terms of the gym and the pitch side of things in terms of returning from injury. So collectively, I haven't even maybe accumulated half of those 65 sessions in the last 12-16 weeks.
No expenses for you, big lad.
I haven't even looked at it.
He doesn't need them. But you would be surprised, lads, I'd say, that, like, I spoke to a couple of teams before I came out here about what they were doing in previous years and what they were planning on doing in the coming year, and 2 of them anyway were not doing double sessions. Like, they were doing pitch and gym on separate nights, and that was one thing that I outlined to them that had to be changed. So you might think it's across the board, but it's definitely not. And if you are doing gym separately as well as your pitch, and you're doing your gym away from the pitch and away from the rest of the group, I'd be questioning what is the intent like and what is the quality like of that gym session. I know it's not going to be possible for everyone, but if you can get it done on the same night and do it together under observation, I would imagine it's going to be of better quality. As well as that, you can have a life outside of it. Like, Eoghan, if you were up the pitch 5-6 nights a week, I'd potentially are. I don't know what Paul would be saying to you.
No, I'd be tight enough one, like, even from your own head. Just knowing that you have to be somewhere at a certain time, like, that you are, like, yes, you already put a lot on pause for playing, like, but I do think even with the nature of work that we're in, where we kind of on our own schedule, it's nice to be able to know, like, right, I can go and get this session done at whatever stage, and I don't have to, like, be not sitting about all day, but, like, if you have a gap there in the middle of the day, right, I can go and bang this out, get this done, maybe take my time getting it done, and add in a few wee things that sort of, like, that you want to do, and then you can come back and chill out and feel like you're getting a bit of a life and just chill out in the evening, like, rather than having to know that, right, I've training tonight. Like, we're doing that at the minute, we're gym and pitch on separate days, and just knowing that, like, if you're waiting to say 6-7 o'clock to go into a gym session in the evening, when you can set your day up so that you have it done first thing in the morning, you can probably get more recovery time then before you're out in the pitch again the next evening. It can be frustrating at times, but then when you are in the environment of the collective sessions, obviously we got the new setup there in Dunsily as well, so it's a good environment to be in. It is good to get the sessions in, but I do think we have a bit of a good balance in terms of lads are all bought in, lads are all doing it, and they, if lads can't make it, as long as they're getting it done, that's the main thing. I don't think there's anyone around the panel who are sort of messing about with it and taking liberties, like. But the majority would be at the collective sessions. But yeah, no, it's nice to get a night off, and it's not even a night off. You're still getting the session done, but you feel like you're getting a night off. Like, do you know what I mean? It's nice to chill out and be able to have dinner at a reasonable time and maybe kick the feet for a bit, like, and get to bed at a reasonable time.
Darragh, it's obviously in stark contrast to what you've been doing, obviously, with your double sessions and your individualised work. But we will move on to something that's probably definitely within your scope. And Armagh seemed to be going quite well at the weekend. Or was it a case that Kildare just potentially aren't up to it this year in Division 2? Fermanagh you played them already, didn't you? Like, what's
Kildare?
your perspective on that? Yeah.
Yeah, I was very surprised at the level that Kildare were at that night. Even seemed to have went backwards from last year, and last year wasn't their best year either. So yeah, I think everyone's well aware of there's probably issues within the camp or whatever. I'm not sure, I can't really speak on that, but it's pretty evident on the pitch that things aren't, I suppose, firing as well as they probably should be with the quality of the player that's within the county. So again, it's hard to know, it's hard to take anything from that game if you're Armagh, and they probably know that themselves. Like, yes, they're probably going quite well, but they come up against a team who probably just aren't at the level that they should be at the moment. So yeah, we play them now. We play Armagh in 2 weeks, so I'm sure we'll know more about what level they're at with that night when we play them. We have them at home, so yeah, looking forward to that one as well. We have them in the championship too, actually. So be
They're
feisty.
usually quick starters in the league, though, aren't they? Like, and I know from insights into the camp, they do train quite hard in the pre-season. Is there a risk with that? I suppose that you're hoping, Darragh, by the time it runs around the championship, they've almost burnt out from been flying so high in the league. Although you've said previously that doesn't really happen in terms of game plan, but can it happen physically?
I don't think it can happen that quickly. Like, we play them 2-3 weeks after the league finishes, so there's definitely not going to be there's going to be no burnout physically at that stage of the year. And I think Armagh probably took lessons. Like, they've took that approach over the last, probably since Kieran McGeeney came in first, that they've done a lot of work in the off season and they've got themselves into phenomenal shape for the league. Did they do this year? I have absolutely no idea. Only they probably know that. Maybe they're taking a different approach this year. It's, again, they're in Division 2, they were in Division 1 for the last number of years, so you can't really compare in terms of, I suppose, knowing what level they're at this year in comparison to last year. Maybe you could take something from the fact that Louth nearly beat them on the first day in athletic grounds. Would that have happened in previous years when they were absolutely flying? Maybe not. So maybe they are taking a different approach this year. But again, in terms of burnout of players and that side of things, you wouldn't generally see that until late on in the championship. And again, even with the split season now that is involved, I don't even know if that's a thing really anymore because of how early the year finishes.
Well, I did see a tweet, and I know that we have to take Twitter with a pinch of salt, about Antrim and potential like burnout and potential that the split season doesn't really work in Antrim because there are a number of dual players at club level and county level. Does it affect you at all, Eoghan, or would you be saying that tweet is absolute rubbish?
I didn't even see the tweet, but it's not even a split season. Like, it's a joke the way it's set up in Antrim. We, like, last year I played 4.5 games for the club all year. Championship was finished in the middle of August, and it was like where'd the season go? If we're, obviously you want your county to do well, and club teams are nearly punished then if boys are with the county and the county's going well and the season's going on long. Come crunch games in the league, county players aren't available to the club, and then you're maybe running straight into the championship. Like, if we looking at the dates, you could potentially be playing in maybe a championship final or a Township Cup final or something like that, and you could be up at your club, 2 weeks later, like in the championship, in the first game of the championship. So like you're not really getting an awful lot of time there. One, you're not really getting any downtime after the county season finishes, and then you're going straight into another campaign. If that goes well, you can be straight into October time, all being well, best case scenario, like, and then by the time you're finished that, you're going straight back into the county again. So there is no real split season really. And then you have boys going and playing hurling, playing football. They're probably week on week. Yes, they're getting plenty of games, but from us being like, we've plenty of dual players, like, the toll it takes on boys is it's hard to manage, like, and there'll be maybe 8 or 9 hurlers playing in our football team, and they'd probably go and start in the hurling team as well, like, and if they're playing week on week, 1 week they're at hurling trying to get a couple of sessions in there because they have their championship game coming up, and then they're coming back to us the next week. The following week the hurlers are suffering because they're not getting them. It's a tricky scenario to be in, like, but I don't think it's not handled in the best way, like, we haven't even officially been told when the leagues are starting, and they could be starting in 2-3 weeks time, like, trying to plan a summer holiday, like, and you don't even know when your championship's going to be. Like,
I was just about to say you weren't worried about it when you were in Ibiza last year or the year before. But
put out, so that was the middle of August. We were put out last days. I was in Ibiza, but that's the thing. I missed the booked the holiday, hoping it'll be grand. I'll be home the end of July here. Surely I'll not miss any championship, and I missed the first group game of the championship.
Who is it the fault of, Owen? Is it the county board?
Well, I think it has to be a wee bit, like, they obviously are the ones that make the decisions at the end of the day. Like, I know in the past when Enda McGinley was in, he wanted a big part to play in it, as in making the fixtures so that it could work for everyone, that players he was good and that, right, lads can go and play games to the club if they're not getting games to the county, go and play a half or whatever. But he wanted to be involved in the fixtures, so there was no, he's not playing, or here, come play for the club sort of thing if you're not getting minutes there, and putting everyone in a sort of tricky scenario, like. So I do think it is the county board at the end of the day, but I do understand, yes, they're trying to balance hurling, they're trying to balance football and trying to fit dates in, but surely there has to be a better way to go about it, like. Aye.
Is there any county board in the country that the people within the county are saying, Jesus, the county board are playing a blinder? They're brilliant.
That doesn't happen. What would we have to give out about?
We won't be giving out for the last bit, I suppose, but we'll go through next week's fixtures and the big fixtures. First one up on Saturday is Tyrone versus Mayo. And actually, we can't move on without mentioning, I know Tyrone were unfortunate against Galway to miss out and lose by a point, but Jesus Christ, how good was Niall Morgan? He was like a man possessed. Did you see that take up over the crossbar, and then he's picking passes like Kevin De Bruyne up the field as well? Darragh, did you watch the game?
A point from play as well.
Yeah,
almost
I've seen the highlights. He was phenomenal. Like, he's so athletic. Like, they've said that for years, that he probably could have played outfield for Tyrone as well. So it's a ridiculous asset that they have there. I've seen him. His ability in the air within his own square is just phenomenal. Like, nearly every game you see him coming out and taking balls, not just in his chest or not just fisting them, like literally taking them above his head, 2 yards from his own goal. So yeah, he's been doing that for a long time now, and he's probably now starting to progress even further up the pitch, which I think a lot of teams are doing. But it's huge when you have someone who is so comfortable as an outfield player for the club at a high level within Tyrone, to be in your own goals, to be so good at kickouts, like, and have such a boom. Like, he has all the qualities, to be fair to him. It was a serious performance.
So will you be picking them for next week's fixture against Mayo in Omagh? Or who is your verdict, or who's your prediction on who's going to win that one?
That's a really tough one. I suppose both teams probably need a win based off last week's results. So I think, given it's in Omagh, I'd probably go with Tyrone for that one. especially like obviously this week the Cannamans had their Sigerson game a couple of days before. That may have factored into that game. Tyrone will probably be a wee bit stronger this week again. So the fact that it's in Omagh, I'd back Tyrone probably to win that.
Owen,
Yeah,
keeping it
gonna
Ulster.
go and throw that one again. I think it will
Tyrone,
be a
man.
tight. Can I hear you,
Sorry
Jeremy?
for Antrim.
Yeah, I do think it'll be a tight one again. I don't think either of them are firing on all cylinders at the minute. I do think it'll be tight. But I think the last couple of years, the other games that sort of stand out in my head anyway. I do think Toronto sort of got over the line against Mayo a few times. So that's just making me airs towards them. Like,
I'll go Mayo then to even it out. The next big fixture is a absolutely
Cillian
massive
O'Connor's
one in
biggest
Croke
fan.
Park. He's my biggest fan, mate.
tears north and south. Like.
Don't be splitting it. You're always blaming us for splitting it. You're the one splitting it now. Dublin are playing Kerry in Croke Park then at 7:30 on Saturday. Two teams absolutely flying this last week. Who's your pick there, Darragh?
That's a clinker, that one. I'm looking forward to actually watching that. I was massively impressed with Kerry at the weekend, even though they only won by a point, and as we mentioned, Mayo stuck in the game. I just think they're at a completely different level. Like I know Kerry have always had footballers all over the pitch, like, you know, even in their back line, but I just think it's at an even higher level this year. I was looking at the cornerbacks, the fullback. Nearly everyone is just coming out soloing with both feet, kick passing up the pitch with both feet, really silky. And again, they're going to be further down the line, obviously, just because they've had another game under the belt last week. They've had a good win. They've got a bit of momentum. The Dubs obviously have eventually got a win and probably will fancy themselves well. But I think I'm going to go for Kerry just with the form the two Cliffords are on. And the quality they have throughout that team is just ridiculous.
Owen, same again.
Same again.
I'm going to pick Dublin then, just to spite the Dewey. Moving on, like there are some great fixtures then on Sunday too, and we will move on from Division 1 eventually, but Galway against Derry. Galway obviously getting their win, but haven't really looked phenomenal so far in the league, and then Derry absolutely flying it on the top of the table. Are Derry going to go down to Galway and get the win, do you reckon, Owen?
Yeah, I think so. I think how they've been performing, and I think there's a good buzz around the place. They seem like they've plenty of energy, and I think each win is just going to keep them sort of building that bit of momentum. So, yeah, I do think Darragh will get the win again.
Darragh, are you going to agree with Owen again?
I was just gonna touch on Galway. Like, they've obviously been struggling so far, but I rarely see a team go down to Galway and run over the top of them. So it'll be an interesting one. It'll be good to see if Shane Walsh is back as well. I think that'll have an impact on that side of things as well. If Shane Walsh is back, I could see that one being really close. If he's not, I just don't think Galway have enough quality at the moment to get over the likes of Derry with the quality that Derry have at the minute, and they're obviously basically at full strength. So I think it'll be close, but I'm gonna go for Derry by a couple of points.
Okay, and then obviously in Division 2, a big crunch tie between Armagh and Donegal. Darragh, having faced Donegal last week and Armagh in 2 weeks' time. It's quite an important fixture, I guess, for you guys, but who do you envision getting out of that one with 2 points?
No comment. Nah, I'll go with a draw on that one. That one's gonna be close, I reckon.
Get off the fence, pick one.
They're both shade.
Owen, what do you reckon? Armagh and Donegal.
I think it'll be tight. I'm gonna go Armagh though. I don't know why. Just something in me says Armagh. Yeah, gonna go Armagh.
I'll go Donegal in that one. So you think I'm just disagreeing with you for the sake of it, but maybe I am, I suppose.
We need
have your own
opinions
fixtures.
here.
But I
Can't just be
just
throwing
think,
out
like,
teams with any justification.
yeah,
well-
okay, well, look, I just think it's apparent that Donegal have been flying with Jim McGuinness back in, and they're going to have a system in play. I know the style of training that they're doing is obviously quite taxing, but I think that it leads to high outputs at the start of the season and then maybe wavering off, and we're still at the start of the season. So I feel like, and it's obviously just me guessing, I feel like Donegal are probably closer to their peak than Armagh are. And then I've seen Jim McGuinness in action, and I know that he's going to be in that dressing room and getting them absolutely pumped all week to play Armagh and go up there. And he's probably circled this fixture as a massive one that they're going to shock everybody and strike fear into everybody's hearts, I suppose, for the rest of the season. So I just think it's a massive fixture for Donegal, and I would say I know we say that you take every game as it comes, but I would imagine they're putting more emphasis on getting a result in that game because it's a top of the table clash, and it does send a message to everybody in Division 2 as well as everybody around the country. So there's your opinion. Is that enough of a justification for you, Darragh?
Not bad. I'll take it.
I'll take it. And then we're going to your two fixtures, which obviously Darragh can see past Fermanagh against Cork, obviously at home. We've touched on that already. And then Antrim in Sligo. Have you been down to Sligo, to Markovich Park before, Eoghan? And why we know what you're going to pick here as a result, but tell me why you're going to go down there and get a win.
I don't think I've actually been down there before. I can't think off the top of my head. I don't think I have. But no, I think we'll bounce back this week. Obviously disappointing to get the defeat there, and the manner of the defeat against Down. But yeah, I think the boys are refocused. The goal is still promotion at the end of the day. And if we want to be in the hunt for promotion, we need to have a big response and a big bounce back. So I think a lot of boys knew, as I said earlier, a lot of boys knew that the performance wasn't up to the standard that we know we can hit. So I suppose it's about putting that right this week, and getting back to operating the levels and the standards that we know we can hit. I suppose a big thing is consistency and wanting to perform the consistent standard week in, week out. They're as close to your best standard week in, week out. But then also it'll test us a bit in terms of one result hasn't gone our way. How do we kind of respond with that, and how do we sort of kick on from there? Maybe in the last couple of years there's been a result or two maybe hasn't gone the way, and maybe we haven't really bounced back from it. But if we want to show that we've learned and we've grown as a team, I think there needs to be a big reaction this week. So yeah, I'm going for an Antrim win there. And maybe
Darragh, you go for an Antrim win, or what you reckon?
Oh no, if McCabe's back, it's a guaranteed W.
We love a bit of support on the podcast. Lads, thank you again for joining us on another episode of the Backdoor Cut. Thanks Eoghan, thanks Darragh, and best of luck the weekend, lads.
Cheers boys.